I'm Mimika Cooney, and welcome to Mimika TV, the creative's place to build a brilliant business. Our show is brought to you by Capture School, the place for creatives to learn about business, marketing, and social media. The easy-to-follow online video courses and interviews will help you save time, make more money, and give you the freedom to do the things you love. Go to captureschool.com and sign up today. This week, we are talking about how to create your marketing love story. Bernadette Jiwa is the author of 4 #1 Amazon bestsellers, Make Your Idea Matter, The Fortune Cookie Principle, Difference, and her most recent one, Marketing a Love Story. Her blog, thestoryoftelling.com, was voted as the best Australian business blog in 2012 and by Smart Company as one of Australia's top 20 business blogs in 2013 and 14. Bernadette was named one of the top 100 branding experts to follow on Twitter, and she spoke at TEDx Perth about the secrets to spreading ideas. Her work as a brand story, marketing strategist, and thought leader sees her consulting with and speaking to global brands, business leaders, and entrepreneurs from Sydney to New York. So welcome, Bernadette. Welcome to Mimika TV. I'm so excited to have you.
Yeah, it's been a while. I know you asked ages ago, so thank you for your patience.
Sure, no worries. I've just been stalking you on Twitter, right, and quoting you in all things, because as you can tell, I'm a little bit of a fan. I have all the books, Fortune Cookie Principle, Difference, Make Your Idea Matter, which I have an Audible too, and then your new one, which I've been reading on my Kindle. I can't wait to get a physical copy of it too, so exciting stuff, right?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for supporting my work.
Sure, I appreciate that. And you are in Perth, Australia, correct? And I'm in New York, not New York, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina on New York time. So we're 12 hours apart, but we definitely, this is a great way to connect. So I really would love to dig into, actually get the audience to understand why it is I totally love your stuff. Now, you talk about brand strategy and helping companies understand why their business and whatever they do matters to the world. So give us a little quick bio. How did you become an author and get into marketing branding in the first place?
Look, it's been a long, squiggly career. I was talking to an audience at LinkedIn a few weeks ago, and I was actually telling them about my first job, which was I was a stock control assistant for a big supermarket chain in Ireland. And literally back in those days, we used to, I guess really not serve the customer in the way that we probably should have done, but there were, departments for everything. And I was a stock control assistant. And I used to crawl over tins of beans at the weekend. So that was my start. Then I went on to have management roles in different companies and cafes. So I've done a lot of, customer facing work in business, and that's really how I started to notice the gap in a lot of industries and a lot of marketing, where people were actually talking about themselves and not seeing their customers and understanding the difference they created for their customers. Mm-hmm. And I think when you look at the brands that you really love and the startups that are doing really well, they've flipped that whole thing on its head, which is the reason I wrote Difference and created the Difference Map to, I guess, help people around the organizational change that's happening in marketing.
Because definitely, the old days of putting up a shingle and advertising as such, people would buy a product. Those don't work anymore. We really need to make a connection, which is what you mean by difference, right? So,
when was the last time you clicked on a banner ad? And you can still do that,
Exactly.
$500 billion on advertising last year.
Wow, that's crazy stuff. So, wouldn't you say, I'm sure I find this personally, that sometimes people have this, advertising and marketing, but advertising and marketing are actually quite different. Tell us a little bit of difference, because you mentioned that, what was the quote? I have to quote this. Art and business alike are about doing things that make a difference. So what does that mean exactly?
So let me just track back to your point about marketing and advertising. Nobody wants to tell anybody they're in marketing and advertising. Mm-hmm. So, if you meet somebody on an aircraft, I met a guy on an aircraft and I wasn't in the mood for a big conversation. So he said, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm in marketing." It just kills the conversation dead, And, this idea that marketing is advertising, which is just stick something on at the end to blast people about our messages and things that we want them to listen to, it's old. It's like those are the days of Donald Draper when he was brought in to create the cute tagline to save the day of a very average product. And people, I don't like to call them consumers, people are just not buying into that anymore. If you think about the brands that we care about, they actually do something for us. They reflect something about us back to us. I need to just track back a little bit. The old way of marketing was, here's my product, this is the price I can sell it at, this is where I'm going to sell it, and this is how I'm going to promote the heck out of it. So the 4 P's of marketing. And the reason that I wrote Difference and created the Difference Map was to get people to understand how really great businesses are doing this. So the businesses like maybe some of your listeners and viewers know the Warby Parkers of the world, the Ubers, obviously the Apples, the Zappos, brands that really understand the people they want to serve before they actually go out there and create a thing.
So instead of like the old days of, oh, we want to make some money, let's make a product, let's see what we can sell people. It's not that at all. It's really like finding something that means something to you first, like especially for my audience, for us creatives out there, you know, we create something out of passion. It's something we love. So, but we have a problem with trying to sell the product, because as artists, we like, oh, well, I love what I'm doing. How can I charge for what I'm doing? Which is the exact opposite to the whole conventional, just put a price tag on it and sell the as much as you possibly can. So how would you say, I mean, you know, would you say for an artist and from that perspective, shouldn't it be easier for us to actually make the connection?
I think it should be easier. I think part of the thing is not recognizing what you're really great at and owning that, and then being able to communicate that with the world, because as creators and creatives, we have this kind of icky feeling about marketing, as though this marketing is kind of prostituting your art almost. But I really think that if you have got not just a passion, but you've got a gift that somebody out there in the world needs, then you've got an obligation to actually tell them the story of who you are and why you're the right person for them.
Right.
So I think it's a mindset thing. It's a flip your thinking around, I'm just selling people as opposed to on what I've got, as opposed to really thinking that you're helping people to find you. That's how I think about it.
So it's definitely a product or a service you're offering is helping them find something that they need or want, as opposed to shoving something down their throats that they don't want. And I think that's a great distinction, because I hear that a lot, where, like marketing pop type of thing, you know. So tell us a little bit about, you know, when we talk about difference, I mean, how would you relate that? What does difference mean in terms of what, say, one photographer from another does? Because we all have the same tools. How do we find our difference?
That's an interesting thing, isn't it? So that's why I made this handy little tool. I think it might be a good time for us to start digging into the difference map. And
yes, I've got it summarized.
So first up, I am not selling people on buying the book. You can download the difference map for free at difference.is. So I don't know if you've got one there, but I've got a copy here, and even if people are just listening, we can talk through it. So,
I've got a PDF. I've got it on my desktop. I'm trying to see.
The top section of the map relates to the truth about you, the truth about your market and your industry, and the truth about people you want to serve. So a lot of the time we actually just think, I'm going to set up shop, this is what I'm good at, now I'm going to start, and then we actually don't dig into the people we want to serve. I think before we start thinking about our product, we need to think about, well, who's out there looking for what I've got? What do they care about? What do they want? What are their needs? And then your purpose. Why do you exist? Why do you want to bring this thing to the world? Digging more into the people you want to serve. How do you make that personal? What's their perception of photographers? I mean, the interesting thing about photography is everybody thinks they're a photographer.
Exactly.
Now, you know?
Well, that's the hardest part now. It's like, it's one of those industries that unfortunately has suffered a lot in terms of the accessibility to everyone is a photographer now with your phone, where before, you know, even 10 years ago as a film photographer, not everyone could do what I could do. So it's become so much harder to differentiate yourself, and it's all like not necessarily finding the next shiny thing.
It has, but in some ways there are so many more opportunities to actually reach the right people. So if you think about Brandon, the Humans of New York guy, I mean, I don't think he was even a professional photographer, but he found a way of telling stories that really resonated with people. And he put a lot of work into doing, becoming good at not just taking photos, but making people feel something when they experienced his work. And I think that's the part of it that we need to focus on, is how do we want people to feel? How do they want to feel? And what's our skill in relation to that? So the product sort of, comes at the end of all of that stuff. That's how I've constructed it. And I think if you think about any really great product that you're attached to, you can see that all of that thought and intention's been put into that product before it was brought to market.
Right. So it's almost like the user experience. And I know this sounds so cliche, but the whole Apple experience is that you don't go there, you don't have a row and row of computers to buy. It's the experience of interacting with the products, the touching the screens and getting a feel, and there's lots of space. It's really wanting people to feel like that's where they want to belong.
Exactly. I mean, I talk about belonging a lot, and there's a really great story. And I know people get tired of hearing the Apple story, but it is really one to keep going back to, because if you think about a successful business like Microsoft, I mean, they're still making money, but their market share is it's still making billions, but their market share is just shrinking. And that's because they've stopped staying relevant to people and, understanding what it was that people wanted. Not because they don't make useful products that we all use every day, but that they're becoming less and less relevant. One of the great stories that I love talking about was when Apple first opened the Apple stores. They had no iPod. There was no iPod. There was no iPhone. Very few people owned a Mac back then, 2001. I think 97% of the US was on dial-up, and they still opened these stores. And what Ron Johnson, who was the VP of retail at the time of Apple, said was that they didn't necessarily create a place where people went to buy. They created a place where people went to belong. And that is it in a nutshell. That's the essence of what the magic of Apple, and if you can recreate that in a tiny way, you're laughing.
And that's the whole thing about branding. It's not necessarily, I'm wearing these, Gucci sunglasses just because I want to look cool. It's kind of like, well, I feel like I'm part of this group, and it's more like an identity thing. So, I mean, I know I made so many notes of the book. I'm like a crazy woman, all these little scratches, and trying to pull out the things that I think there is so much stuff we could go over. But one thing I do want to touch on, you mentioned in the Marketing a Love Story, where you say something about your website shouldn't be optimized to make people click. It needs to make people feel like they belong. So if you were looking at someone's website, like you do with the brands that you work with, how would you say would be the first thing that you would advise them to do? Because it seems like everyone's following the same path in terms of how they do it.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you'll see that all of your listeners will see that there's a kind of a formula. Let's think about creatives or photographic websites. They tend to follow a formula, and they're obviously heavy on visuals and things. One great example from recently is I wrote about it the other day on the blog. I was looking for some flowers for a friend in a couple of suburbs away, and I wanted them delivered to her. So I went to Google, and every single website was exactly the same. And I was really disappointed because I felt like every single website was optimized to be found by Google, but not to be found by human beings. So I think the first thing you can do is sit down in front of your website and think, what does this say to a person? And who is that person? I think it gets back to, again, knowing the people you want to speak to. Is she a mom? Is it, is it somebody who wants to create products, an entrepreneur who wants to get really great, have a really great photographic shoot of their product, and stand in their shoes and then create your website for them.
Just kind of really bringing it, always keeping our customer as center of focus. Instead of what can I do to show off my work, it's more like what is going to make them feel like, oh, I want that, or make them feel like they want to email you or contact you.
And conversely, it's also, you don't want to appeal to everybody. So I've got a marketing and brand strategy blog and website that's got a heart on the top of it, and there are lots of people who are going to land on my website and click away straight away because that is not for them. But So that's what you've got to do. You've got to turn people off so you can actually make the right people fall in love, I guess.
So I suppose it's like to be magnetic to some, you do have to repel others, right? And it's okay. Sure. Not everyone's going to love you, which is fine.
That's what we do in life, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Now, I mean, one last thing I wanted to mention from the notes I took. You mentioned the one thing that I thought was super important about, because we talk about marketing and we're thinking if we're marketing and people hear about us, like they hear about us everywhere, surely we must be good. But you made a point where you said top of mind is not the same as being close to heart. What does that mean?
So think about it, Microsoft versus Apple. Borders had market dominance. They were in every high street. But Amazon was able to come in and steal a march on them. How did that happen? You can be everywhere, but like McDonald's is everywhere, but do people really love you? So McDonald's, Chipotle, which do you want to be? You've got to create some kind of meaning for people, I think, to survive without, what's going to happen with Microsoft is they're going to have to, I guess, reduce their prices or reinvent themselves. The same with McDonald's. It's all about commodities as opposed to creating meaning for people.
Definitely. And if we all have access to the same tools, it's not going to help the fancier camera or the shinier product. It's really, the difference is, because you had that in the book as well, where you make a list of what you and your competitors have and you cross off what you have in common, and what you left with is what the trust factor was one, and the difference, and there was a third one. I made a note of it, I can't remember what it was, but basically what makes you unique.
Exactly. And I think we don't spend enough time thinking about that because we're too busy in the doing part or get more attention part. And sometimes you've got to be patient with ourselves too,
Yeah, it's not like an overnight success. It's just more like a relationship. Just like you have a relationship with someone, you go slowly. You don't have to go up to someone in a bar and do a marriage proposal. It's kind of, gross. Now, to remind everyone who's listening, Bernadette has kindly donated Kindle copies of her book. So, if you want them as Kindle or as printed versions, she's offered either or. And we have the 4 options, which of course are Fortune Cookie Principle, Make Your Idea Matter, Difference, and then Marketing a Love Story. I don't have a physical copy yet. I'm waiting for it. There you go. There it is. And these are really great. What I love about them are they're really concise reading. You get to the point easily, but it's food for thought. It's not very long-winded. It's conversational speak. So it's and that's what I love about your blog. Like, I have a whole folder of just your blogs that come through. I get them every Sunday when you send them out every Monday morning. So I'm kind of like, and I ponder on it and think, that's a good quote. What can I do to infuse that? So it's one of those things. It's not that you just read once and you put away. You can actually make notes from it and start to develop your own thought process. If you want to win it, you're going to be in it to win it. So scroll below the video and enter our raffle copter giveaway. Remember, you only have 7 days to enter, so go ahead and enter all those things that we need to do. And if you also you love what you're reading there, we'd love an Amazon review. Once you read the books, because as authors, I have 2 books too on Amazon, and it's really helpful when someone actually leaves a review. It makes it so much easier for other people to trust us, knowing that our content is great. So go ahead and leave reviews too. Now, before we wrap up, I had to ask you one question. Tell me about Seth Godin. How did you get connected with him? Because I love the forwards he does on your books.
Oh, how did I get... We've been emailing. I guess we've been pen pals for a long, long time before we actually met. And yeah, just trust, relationship. It's all about relationship. And even though we live thousands and thousands of miles away, we've actually just respect each other's work, I guess. And that's how... Because
you're both on the same kind of path, 2 trains going in the same direction of different tracks, but it's kind of like he has...
I think Seth's focus now is much more on personal development and getting people to actually start doing the things that they really care about and creating work that matters. And he's written some amazing books, and if it weren't for Seth, for sure I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. That's a fact.
That's great. Well, it's always lovely to have people who have your back and who believe in you. So that's why I so appreciate you taking the time to be on my show, and I'm like so excited because I'm so enthused by your books, and again, if you want to win copies of the books, you've got to be in it to win it. So and go ahead and tell Bernadette what you think. We'd love to know. And your blog is always up. That's what's great, is if you have something you want to add a comment, if you send them out, I think weekly, right?
My blog posts go out 3 times a week. My newsletter once a month. But people read them at all different times.
And that's the story of telling.com. And we'll have all these links below that you'll able to find. And if you're listening to this by audio, you can click on the show notes. We'll have some information for you there so you can find out how you can reach Bernadette. So you can go stalk her on Facebook and Twitter, because she's definitely one of the people to follow on Twitter. Really great insights just to help give you some food for thought. So, and to remind everyone, if you are listening on iTunes, please go ahead and leave a review. We would love to know what you think of our show. And if you are a Stitcher listener, we are now available there too, and on YouTube as well. Subscribe to our channel so you can hear more great stuff from Mimika TV. So just to wrap it up, what one takeaway tip, if you could put it in one tip, would you give our audience to take away?
The most important thing you can do is actually learn how to see people. We spend a lot of our time trying to get the world to see us, but if you can actually learn how to see people before you ask them to see you, that's the most important thing you can do for your business.
Wow, that's awesome. So it's instead of like, look at me, here's my shiny product, actually going to look at things from your customer's perspective. I think it's just really great advice. So I have to agree with that. Well, I have to say thank you so much for joining me. I so appreciate you taking the time. And just remind everybody, if you want to get more resources that I only share with my newsletter community, go to mimikacooney.com, and I have an ebook on the freebies tab called Modern Marketing, which is my own version of putting all together all the ideas I've learned as being a photographer and a creative for the last sort of 11 years. So if you want to have some food for thought from my perspective, go ahead and download that today. And remember to go sign up for Bernadette's newsletter. You can go to thestoryoftelling.com and you can see her there, and we'll have her social media links as well. And comments, please let us know what you think of the video, any aha moments and any ideas you've taken away from what Bernadette had to share. We'd love to hear your thoughts so we know that we are giving you relevant content. So I have to say thanks again for joining me, and I always love to leave off my videos with a bit of a pep talk, which is you need to believe in yourself. You are worth it. You can do what you love and be paid for living it. So thanks again, Bernadette. I so appreciate you being on Mimika TV, and I look forward to getting my physical copy of the next book.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for supporting what I do.
It's a pleasure. Thanks again, everyone. Until next time, take care. Hello.
How are you?
Hi, I'm finding you. I can't see the sparkle in your eyes. My husband's like, why are you buying this book again? I'm like, well, I just love it. I've got to have a physical copy.